The sun rises over a blood-stained prairie. It's not golden. It's rust-colored, thick, like old blood dried on a butcher's table. Buzzards circle overhead, already aware of something you haven't realized yet. You're dead. You just haven't had the decency to fall over yet. The silence isn't peaceful. It's screaming. Screaming in the way a canyon echoes with the ghosts of men who thought they were tough enough to ride this land. You think you're a cowboy. You think the Wild West is leather boots, saloons, freedom, and a noble sunset over endless plains. Wrong. You're not Clint Eastwood. You're not John Wayne. You're meat. Welcome to the Wild West. Welcome to hell on horseback. And if you think you're going to make it to sundown, you're already hallucinating from thirst. This isn't Hollywood. This is real. Dust in your lungs, death on your doorstep, and betrayal behind every smile. You open your eyes. Bad move. You're blind for a second because the sun in the Wild West isn't filtered through clouds or comfort. It burns, scalds, blisters. Your skin is already cracking and you've been awake for 30 seconds. You slept under the stars, but not because it's romantic, because there's no roof, no bed, and no law. The ground is your mattress, and it's crawling. Scorpions, snakes, biting ants, ticks that burrow. Your back is bruised from rocks, your bladder's screaming. You try to stand, but your legs are stiff from cold, and your mouth tastes like blood and dirt. You're thirsty, but there's no canteen. You reach for your water skin, but it's empty. Leaked out in the night, or stolen while you slept. You blink, try to focus. Where are you? Somewhere between nowhere and regret. The wind stings your eyes, carries the scent of rot and gunpowder. You cough, and something in your lungs gives up. Welcome to morning. Hunger comes next. Not the I-skipped breakfast kind. The kind where your stomach gnaws on itself. You haven't eaten since yesterday's beans and sour coffee. You reach into your bag, find jerky. It's grey, hard, smells like old leather boots, probably because it is. You chew anyway, because the only other option is chewing your belt, which, by the way, is a thing people did. You check your surroundings. No town in sight. No trail, just the same endless dirt horizon that's been mocking you for hours. The only things alive out here are things that want you dead. Wolves, mountain lions, men with nothing to lose and everything to take. You hear a sound. Your horse, if you're lucky. If you're not, it's someone else's horse, which means trouble. You remember now. There's a bounty on your head. Or maybe you're the bounty hunter. Either way, somebody's dying today, and the odds are not in your favor. You try to piss, but it burns. Your urine is dark, thick, syrupy. Dehydration. You've had nothing but whiskey for 2 days because the river water is filled with cholera, dead livestock, and the ashes of burnt-out wagons. The water out here kills faster than bullets. And that whiskey? It's not the smooth kind. It's the made in a back room with turpentine and lies kind. You drink it because it's better than dying of thirst, but not by much. Your lips are cracked. Your tongue feels like it's growing fur. You haven't bathed in weeks. Soap is for the rich or the dead. And if you want a bath, you better hope it rains. But even then, you'll be scrubbing with sand and praying the thunder doesn't bring flash floods. You stink, like blood, dust, sweat, and something crawling beneath your clothes. And you will stay that way until something kills you. You saddle up, assuming you even have a horse. If you don't, you're walking. And if you're walking, you're dying. The distances out here are not for men on foot. Towns are 30 miles apart. 30 miles of blistering heat, rattlesnakes, and the kind of silence that tells you no one is coming. The terrain cuts your boots. Your boots cut your feet. You're bleeding and haven't even left the hill. Every step hurts. And you know what waits at the end of this walk? Maybe a town. Maybe a trap. Maybe a ghost town full of bones and dust. You keep moving because there's no such thing as staying still in the Wild West. Staying still means dying slower. You reach the town. If it's still standing. Fires were common. Bandits even more so. You pass through the crooked gates, just a pair of posts with a dying sign swaying in the wind. Buildings here lean like drunkards. The saloon's door is hanging by one hinge. The general store is locked. The sheriff, dead or gone or worse. There's a church, but don't expect sanctuary. God doesn't ride out this far. You enter the saloon. It smells like spit, spilled whiskey, and desperation. Eyes turn to you. You're a stranger, and in the West, stranger means danger. Someone spits. Someone else fingers their gun. You sit down at the bar, order a drink. The glass isn't clean. The liquor's warm. It goes down like fire and regret. You feel someone staring. You turn slowly. A man with a scar is grinning. He knows something you don't. Maybe he saw your wanted poster. Maybe he wants your boots. Maybe he's just bored. In the Wild West, boredom is a death sentence. You go to reach for your gun. It's not there. Stolen. Or maybe you dropped it somewhere between nightmare and sunrise. Doesn't matter. You're unarmed. And out here, that's the same as being naked in a war zone. The man stands. Others follow. It's about to go bad. You make for the door. Fast. You're outside. Sun blinding again. You run. Shots behind you. One grazes your shoulder. It burns like hot metal and betrayal. You keep running. You make it to the edge of town. Somehow still alive. But you're bleeding. And there's no doctor. No medicine. Only what you have in your pack, if anything. You tear a strip from your shirt, press it to the wound. Infection is coming. You can feel it. You ride again. Fast, reckless. Because behind you is danger, and ahead of you is more danger. The Wild West doesn't have safe zones. It has slower death zones. You ride until the sun is high, and then clouds form. Thunder cracks. The skies open. Rain slams down like bullets. You're soaked, freezing. Mud swallows your boots. Your horse slips. You crash. You lie in the dirt, wet, shivering, in pain. You laugh. Because of course it ends like this. You crawl to a tree, try to light a fire. The matches are wet. Your fingers don't work. You sit there, shaking, waiting for the cold to finish what the bullets started. Night falls. You survived the day. Barely. But it's not over. Coyotes howl. Something moves in the dark. Bandits, wolves, you're past. You grip a rock. It's all you have. You're ready to fight, even if you don't win. Especially if you don't win. Because in the Wild West, dying fast is a luxury. Most people fade out slowly, starving, bleeding, forgotten in the dust. You close your eyes. Not to sleep, just to stop seeing. The darkness behind your eyelids is kinder than the world outside. So you think you want to live in the Wild West? You think it's freedom, adventure, glory? No. It's blood. It's dust. It's betrayal from the man who rides beside you and a death from the water you drink. You won't survive until sunset. Hell, you won't survive until noon. This isn't a movie. It's not a game. It's the Wild West. And out here, everything wants you dead. The heat, the cold, the silence, the noise, the people, the land, the sky itself. And if by some miracle you do survive the day, if you limp into tomorrow with your wounds and your regrets and your missing teeth, know this, you're not a cowboy. You're just another ghost waiting to happen. Welcome to hell. Hope you brought a shovel. You'll need it for yourself. You open your eyes in a rotting wooden shack. The ceiling above you is just splinters held together by termites and prayer. Something's dripping onto your face. Water? No, it's thicker than that. Smells like rust and rot. You blink and regret it. The air is a cocktail of death, manure, unwashed bodies, and the sour punch of spilled whiskey fermented in dirt. You try to breathe through your mouth, but that's no better. The inside of your mouth tastes like old gunpowder and blood. Your back sticks to the mouldy bedroll, which used to be a horse blanket and still smells like one, if the horse had died on it. There's no mattress, no pillow, no comfort, just warped planks beneath your spine and the distant sound of someone screaming. You don't know if it's joy, murder, or both. In the Wild West, it's usually both. You sit up fast, too fast. Pain flashes behind your eyes like lightning across a dead sky. Your ribs are bruised from last night's fight, or fall, or beating. It doesn't matter. You reach for your boots, they're wet. Why are they wet? You don't ask. You just jam your swollen feet into them and stand. The floor creaks like a gallows. The room spins. The whiskey's still in your veins. Or maybe it's the concussion. Either way, you're awake now. And out here, being awake is the most dangerous thing you can be. No law, no protection, no justice. Just suspicion and loaded revolvers. And you're carrying none of the three. Your gun's gone, stolen or pawned or dropped somewhere between bad decisions and a worse bar. You reach for your belt, knife still there, rusty, but better than your bare hands. You tie what's left of your shirt, smear the blood stains into something that looks intentional, and push open the shack door. The sunlight hits you like a sheriff's boot to the face. The dust? Immediate. It stings your eyes, coats your tongue, fills your nostrils. The West doesn't welcome you. It strips you down on arrival. You step into the street. It's not really a street. It's a corridor of mud, broken teeth, and splinters. Horse dung piles steam in the morning heat. Flies rise like smoke. On either side, warped buildings lean like drunks about to fall. A blacksmith hammers iron with one hand and drinks with the other. A child stares at you from the steps of a brothel. Not because you're strange, because you're new. And out here, new is just another word for soon to be dead. A dog limps past with more confidence than you have. You're not from here. They know it. They smell it. And the West doesn't like outsiders. The West chews outsiders into gristle and spits them into shallow graves. You walk toward the saloon because it's the only building open this early, the only place that might give you a drink, a lead, or a fist to the face, whichever comes first. The sign swings above the door, a creaking plank with half the letters burned off. The door moans when you push it. Inside, silence. Heads turn, heads. Not in welcome, in calculation. You've just walked into a room of wolves wearing human skin. You make eye contact with a man at the bar. That was your first mistake. He's grizzled, half drunk, and armed. A silver pistol gleams at his hip. He squints, lifts his glass, and speaks without smiling. "New here?" he asks, voice like gravel soaked in moonshine. You nod. a half motion that betrays more fear than you'd like. He snorts, throws back his drink, wipes his mouth with the back of a hand that looks like it's broken bones and fired revolvers. You won't be for long, he laughs. The room doesn't. No one does. They're watching you like a dog watches a wounded rabbit. You step up to the bar. The bartender doesn't ask what you want. He pours the same swill for everyone. Smells like kerosene, burns worse going down. You pay in coins that jingle too loudly. The sound tells everyone you're carrying something worth taking. Behind you, the piano player doesn't play. He just sits there, staring at the keys like he's remembering a song from before his hands were broken. A woman walks by, her dress torn, her eyes older than the desert. She looks at you, just long enough to say, "Don't blink too slow. They'll put you in the ground with your eyes still open." You hear boots on the floorboards behind you. Slow, heavy, purposeful. You turn. A man with a scar that runs ear to chin is smiling. Not the kind of smile you return. The kind of smile that ends with a tooth in your soup. He tips his hat without taking his eyes off your chest. "Nice shirt," he says. "Was that yours? Or did you find it on someone softer?" You don't answer, because there's no right answer. You nod. Not out of respect, out of survival. In the West, words get you buried just as fast as bullets, sometimes faster. He leans in. You from the East, got that shine in your eyes, that soft step. Another voice from the back. "How long you think he lasts, Jed?" The scarred man doesn't blink. "Depends. Can he shoot? Can he bleed quiet?" You take your drink. It's warm and foul. You down it anyway. Because courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about pretending to be long enough to make it through the next 5 minutes. You leave the bar. Not because you're safe, but because the longer you stay, the faster someone picks your pockets or your pulse. You step into the light again. Squint. There's movement on the rooftop. A glint. Rifle barrel. You pretend you didn't see it. You walk like you've got purpose, like you belong here. You don't. A boy runs past you, carrying a sack of something that smells like raw meat. A preacher screams at no one in particular. The devil walks this land, and he wears spurs. A woman sobs in the alley. A man guts a rabbit on the boardwalk like it's just another morning. And for him, it is. You hear church bells, but there's no church, just an empty frame of a building charred by fire. The bells, wind chimes made from jawbones, someone's idea of art, someone else's idea of a warning. And then you remember, you're here for a reason, a name, a debt, a job, a grave, maybe all of them. But reasons don't matter in the Wild West. Results do. You're either the one standing or the one being dug up by buzzards. Your heart beats fast now. Not fear. Instinct. You're being watched. Hunted, maybe. You can feel it in your spine, like a knife made of ice. You touch your knife. Not enough. Never enough. And you know, deep down, the first 5 minutes out here aren't about making friends or finding your footing. They're about not dying. And you're already bleeding. Not on the outside. Not yet. But it's coming. Your soul's cut already. Welcome to the Wild West, where your first mistake was waking up, and your second was assuming you'd get to sleep again. You want a shower? There's a bucket. Maybe. If you're lucky. And if you're not, there's a mud hole out back, filled with yesterday's bath water, some pig droppings, and 1,000 invisible things just waiting to crawl inside your skin. There's no soap, not unless you brought it. And even then, good luck holding on to it when someone hungrier for cleanliness comes along with a knife. You strip down in the open because there's no bathroom, no curtain, no privacy. And as you splash yourself with that questionable water, you feel something crawl across your shoulder. Lice. They live here, rent-free, and they brought friends, fleas, ticks, bedbugs, and the kind of parasites that lay eggs where you itch. This isn't hygiene. It's survival theatre. A joke without a punchline. You want clean? You should have stayed in the future. Out here in the Wild West, the only thing that gets washed regularly is blood off the floorboards. And sometimes, not even that. Everyone stinks. Not like gym sweat. Not like, I forgot deodorant. No, they stink like mouldy meat, old milk, and infection. Like cloth that's never dried. Shoes that have walked through manure and blood, and bodies that haven't seen soap since the Civil War. People reek of disease, but no one notices. No one cares. The smell is part of the air. You'll notice. For a day, maybe 2. Then your nose gives up, or your lungs do, or both. You'll cough, spit something red and wet into the dust, and convince yourself it's nothing. Until it isn't. You go to brush your teeth. With what? A twig? A broken bone? Out here, if you still have teeth by 30, you're a legend. If they're not black, cracked, or rotting from the gums up, you're probably an outlaw with loot for a dentist. Everyone else, their mouths are horror stories. Gums that bleed when they talk. Teeth that wobble with every word. Breath that could peel the paint off a saddle. Cavities turn to infections. Infections turn to abscesses. Abscesses kill you. Slowly, painfully, while you beg someone to knock you unconscious with a rock because the only other option is dying with a mouth full of pus and regret. Don't think you're safe because you're young. Disease doesn't care. Dysentery. You'll be bleeding from both ends and praying to a god you barely believe in as you dehydrate faster than whiskey evaporates in July. Cholera? One bad drink from the town well, and you're a corpse in 12 hours. No painkillers, no hospital, just a cot, a fever, and the town preacher guessing what sins brought this on. Tuberculosis? It's not a whisper in the lungs. It's a scream. It eats you from the inside. You'll start coughing in the morning. By sundown, you're spitting up blood, so dark it looks like tar. You'll collapse in the dirt, a crowd of flies already buzzing, and they won't stop, because they know this body's already theirs. Bathhouses? Maybe. If you've got coin, but even then, you're sharing water with 12 other people and the diseases they brought in with them. The soap's thin. The towels are old. The water is warm only because someone else already used it. You step in, and something slick slides past your leg. Could be hair. Could be something worse. You scrub. It doesn't matter. The infection's already under your skin, and don't stay too long. You don't want to see what floats up from the bottom. Your clothes, stiff with sweat, crusted with salt and grime. They smell like your nightmares and weigh double from the filth soaked into every fibre. You can't wash them. There's no time, no place. And even if you do, they'll be just as filthy in an hour. Your socks are breeding grounds. Your boots are traps. Your undergarments? You stopped wearing those days ago because the rashes made it unbearable. And don't think wounds are better. One scratch from a rusty nail, one bite from a tick, one blister torn open by a bad boot, and you're done. The infection doesn't wait. It doesn't ask. It eats. First it turns red. Then it swells. Then it starts to pulse with with every heartbeat like a drum summoning the end. By the time it's purple, you're sweating through your hat and begging for someone to cut it off. And they will, with a hot knife. No anesthesia, no antiseptic, just the smell of burnt flesh and the screaming. There are no bandages, only torn rags. No antiseptic, just whiskey if you're lucky. No sterile tools. The same knife that gutted a rabbit is about to open your thigh. You'll watch it go in. Feel the heat, hear the hiss as rot meets steel, and you'll pray it ends fast. But it doesn't. You'll live. Maybe. And if you do, you'll carry that scar like a medal. Infection is your shadow now. It doesn't leave. It waits. One bad day, one worse cut, and it'll take the rest of you. You think plague is a medieval problem? Think again. Out here, a cough is a warning. A rash is a prophecy. A fever is a death sentence. You get sick, you don't get better. You get buried. Maybe. If there's time. Otherwise, you rot where you fall. The animals clean up. The dirt absorbs the rest. And the town pretends you were never here. Hygiene is a myth. Cleanliness is fiction. Out here, the only thing that's sterile is the desert. And it's full of bones. Some with names. Most without. Welcome to the Wild West, where the water is poison, the air is dust, and the soap is a luxury no one can afford. You wanted a shower. You got a disease instead. You wanted to clean off. You just washed in filth. You wanted to live. But you forgot this land isn't for the living. It's for the dying. And dying slow. Welcome to infection. It's already under your skin. This ain't no loyal steed. This isn't the Disney fantasy, the galloping hero's companion, the majestic animal that whinnies in tune with your heartstrings. No, this is war on 4 legs. This is a beast bred for muscle and mood swings, with hooves like iron mallets, and a soul forged entirely out of spite. It doesn't like you. It doesn't want to like you. And it's considering right now, in its big, beautiful eyeballs, whether today is the day it sends you flying face first into the hardpan dirt. Spoiler, it is. You walk up with what you think is confidence. You've seen men do it in the movies. Just grab the reins, throw a leg up, ride into the sunrise. Wrong. The second you get near, it turns its head and stares through you like a coffin lid. It exhales, long, wet, and contemptuous. Your fingers tighten on the reins, and it knows. It always knows. Horses smell fear like vultures smell death. And, brother, you reek of it. You try to throw your leg over the saddle. That's cute. You end up twisted mid-air, foot caught, one knee screaming, the other leg flailing like a fish on a rock before you crash backwards into a cloud of dust, manure, and shame. Your face. Mud. Your dignity? Broken. Your ribs? Possibly cracked. The horse. Still standing. Still unimpressed. You hear a wheeze behind you. A man's laugh. You look up and see a wrangler, if that's the word for someone who's missing half his jaw and all of his optimism. His voice sounds like gravel in a boot. He spits through the side of his mouth that's still operational. Don't let it smell your fear, he says, eyeing the blood trickling from your nostril. Then, after a pause, too late. You try again. This time slower, more cautious. You manage to get up, almost. Then the horse shifts its weight and grinds your pelvis against the saddle horn. There goes your last chance at children. You yelp like a kicked dog, and the horse snorts with what can only be described as malicious glee. You cling to the saddle like a drunk to a bar stool, but this bar stool bucks, it jerks, it rears, it hates you. It makes that very clear, and you haven't even ridden yet. Now you're up. Somehow, you think you're okay. You are not. The saddle feels like sitting on a bag of bricks wrapped in barbed wire. Your thighs scream. Your spine vibrates. Your tailbone is negotiating a surrender. You haven't moved 10 feet, and already every part of you wants off. But you can't get off, because now the horse is moving, and now you're at its mercy. You bounce like laundry in a storm. The saddle isn't padding, it's punishment. Every step pounds into your body like judgment from above. Your hands grip the reins like they're ropes dangling from heaven itself. Your feet jam into the stirrups, but they're too short, too long, too wrong. You're not riding the horse, you're surviving it. 10 minutes in, and you've already developed something horrifying called saddle sores. These are not mild discomforts. These are open wounds where once your inner thighs dreamed of better days. Blisters form, then burst, then bleed. You shift to one side, and the horse doesn't like it. It bucks. Your hat flies off. Your pride goes with it. A cowboy without a horse is dead. A cowboy with a horse is dying slower, in installments, one bounce at a time. The terrain doesn't help. You're riding through brush, over rocks, across arroyos that twist and drop with no warning. One bad hoof placement, and you're both going over the edge. And if you do fall, God help you if you fall, you better roll away fast, because a falling horse doesn't care what's beneath it. And if that's you, well, congratulations. You're a new piece of canyon wall art. You try to guide it. You whisper, shout, beg. None of it matters. The horse decides where you're going. You're just luggage. The reins are symbolic. You pull, it doesn't care. You tap your heels, it might go faster. Or it might stop and dump you into a cactus patch just because it's Wednesday. Your inner thighs are raw. Your back is wrecked. Your legs are jelly. And you're still miles from anything resembling mercy. By now, the flies have found you, the ones that gather in clouds, drawn to sweat, blood, and humiliation. Your shirt is soaked. Your pants are worse. You haven't sat this long in months, and your body is starting to forget how joints are supposed to work. Your hands are blistered from gripping leather that's stiff with age and dried rot. You think about stopping, but there's no place to stop. Just more sun, more dust, more horse. You pass a corpse on the trail, desiccated. Face down, boots missing, horse tracks around it. You wonder if he tried to ride one like you. Maybe he thought he could tame it. Maybe he died begging for a ride and got a funeral instead. Eventually, the horse slows. Not because it respects you, because it's bored. It stops near a creek. You think, water, rest. It thinks, time to throw this idiot. And it does. You land hard. Your breath leaves your body in a rush. You lie there, blinking at the sky. Somewhere above, a buzzard circles. Again, the wrangler from earlier rides past, still wheezing that broken laugh. You still on it? He shouts. You groan in reply. Nah, he says. Didn't think so. He rides off, effortlessly. His horse trots like it's part of him, like he was born in that saddle. Maybe he was. Maybe that's what it takes. Because the truth is, you don't tame a horse in the Wild West. You earn its indifference. Maybe. And if you can ride without dying, without crying, without pissing yourself every time it shifts its weight, then maybe you'll live to see the next town. But not today. Today, you're dust-covered, limp-limbed, saddle-sore, and sore-saddled, and wondering how anyone ever looked at this life and called it freedom. You versus horse? You lost. And the worst part? That damn horse knows it. And it's laughing at you. Probably. If it could talk, it'd say exactly what the land says every time someone like you tries to conquer it. Go back home, or stay here and bleed. Hollywood lied. Guns don't make you powerful. They don't make you brave. They don't turn you into the last man standing. They turn you into a corpse with your eyes open and your hand still twitching around cold iron. Guns in the Wild West weren't salvation. They were roulette wheels with blood-stained handles. And every time you pulled the trigger, you bet your life on a chamber filled with rust, dirt, fear, and the hope your gun didn't betray you. There was no dramatic walk into the street, no silent standoff with tumbleweeds blowing by and time slowing down. There was screaming, there was chaos, there was panic, and more often than not, there was someone shooting themselves in the foot before anyone else even drew. Your revolver? Heavy, unbalanced, temperamental. The cylinder sticks, the trigger's stiff, and the grip is worn smooth from hands that used it before you. Most of them dead now. The barrel? Maybe it's clean. Maybe it's full of soot and sand and whatever filth found its way in during your last fall into the dirt. You can oil it all you want. Doesn't matter. One misfire, one bad cartridge, and you're on the ground bleeding out, wondering why the legends never mentioned the gunpowder burns on your own hand. You think you're fast? So did the last guy. He wore his pistol low, slung on a custom belt, polished and oiled like a sacred relic. He talked big, had the stance, the stare, until he stepped out of the saloon, flicked his coat back, reached for his Colt, and dropped it. His fingers locked up, or maybe his nerves shattered like glass at high noon. Either way, the other man shot before he even closed his hand around the grip. There was no duel, just a noise, a red bloom, and a body falling like a puppet with its strings cut. Duel culture wasn't about honor. It was desperation with a deadline. Two men pretending they weren't scared, standing in the middle of a dusty street with murder in their eyes and urine in their boots. Guns didn't go off cleanly. Sometimes they didn't go off at all. Sometimes they exploded in your hand, taking fingers with them. You'd draw, fire, and pray. Because if your aim was off by a hair, you missed. And if you missed, you died. There was no second shot, no best out of 3. One mistake, and the only thing you'd hear was the whistle of death speeding toward your ribs. And don't trust what you've seen on screen. These weren't snipers with 6 shots of surgical precision. They were drunk men, angry men, scared men, firing from the hip and hoping something hit. More bullets went into dirt, sky, bystanders, and whiskey barrels than into actual targets. Fights started with insults and ended with 4 people bleeding out, and no one even sure who started it. Shootouts in the West were wild not because of style, but because of confusion. You pull your gun, and someone else already pulled theirs. You blink, and someone's screaming. You shoot, but your bullet catches air. Theirs finds your leg, or your stomach, or your throat. You try to reload. Good luck. It takes time, focus, steady hands. You have none of those. Your fingers shake. Sweat blinds you. Your spare cartridges are jumbled in your pocket like a gambler's dice. And when you drop one, it rolls into the dust and disappears forever. You fumble, curse, bleed. Your enemy? Already on his feet. Or maybe his friend is. Or his brother. You turn to run and something hot punches you in the back. You fall. The gun slips from your fingers and lands just out of reach. You try to crawl. Your mouth fills with dust, and now you're part of the scenery. Ever see what a bullet actually does? It doesn't just pierce, it shreds. It rips through flesh, cracks bone, tears organs apart like wet paper. A gut shot? You won't die quick. You'll scream. You'll beg. You'll feel your insides leak out slow, hour by hour, while flies gather and men walk past, pretending not to hear. A chest wound? Maybe quicker. Maybe. A neck shot? That's just art for the crows. And the ones who survive? They don't walk away clean. They carry pieces of metal inside them, fevered dreams, twisted scars that never heal. Heroes? No. Just survivors with permanent limps and dead eyes. You want to practice? You find a can. Set it on a fence. You draw, aim, fire. Miss. Again. Miss. You adjust, shoot, hit the can. But now you're out of bullets. 6 shots. That's all you get. 6 chances to live or die. And the real enemy? He isn't a can. He's a man behind a water trough, or on the roof, or 10 feet behind you, silent, waiting for you to get cocky. You'll never see him. You'll just hear the shot. Then nothing. There's no backup, no cavalry, no police. If you're shot, you're done. The doc? If there is one, he's probably drunk. His tools are rusty. His hands aren't clean. He'll pour whiskey into the wound and pray. Amputation is more common than healing, and the graveyard is always ready. Fresh dirt, new hole, another man who thought a gun would keep him alive. It didn't. So you want to be a gunslinger? You want to feel powerful? Don't. Because carrying iron makes you a target. It makes people nervous. It makes you dangerous to everyone, including yourself. You'll sleep with it under your pillow and wake up to find it missing. Or worse, in someone else's hand. You'll draw when you shouldn't, shoot when you didn't mean to, and kill someone you can't bring back. Then you'll live with that, or die from it. Blood soaks the dust. You wipe your face and realize it's not your blood. Not yet, but it will be. Guns don't make you a god. They make you a gambler. And out here, the house always wins. You thought this was about bravery? No, it's about speed and luck. And you're running out of both. Dinner is pain, not a metaphor, not poetic exaggeration. It is literal, visceral, unforgettable pain served on a dented tin plate with a side of regret. You sit cross-legged in the dirt or slumped against a rotted-out wagon wheel, staring into a pot that's been cooking all day, or maybe all week, over a smoky fire made from cow dung and brittle brush. You smell it before you see it, and once you smell it, you wish you hadn't. The scent wafts up like a curse. Sulphur, death, overboiled misery, and beans. Always beans. Too many beans. Not enough to satisfy, but more than your stomach wants to process. You scoop it up anyway, because there's no alternative. The stew, or what passes for it, is thick, greyish-brown, and has the consistency of snot in a thunderstorm. The beans are half-cooked and taste like chalk soaked in foot sweat. Every other bite has a surprise. A chunk of something you pray was once alive. A sliver of bone. A hard kernel that cracks a molar, or a glob of fat that turns to lard on your tongue and refuses to leave. Meat? If you're lucky, it's rabbit. If you're not, it's whatever they manage to trap, shoot, or scrape off the side of the road that morning. Some of it still twitches. Some of it already moved too much and now moves no more. There's no seasoning. There's no salt. Pepper, luxury, herbs. Only if you count weeds. What you get is bitterness, heat, and a smell that sticks to your clothes for days. You eat it with a spoon, so bent it doubles as a dagger. Or with your hands, or you drink it straight from the bowl like a prisoner desperate to pretend this is nourishment. It isn't. It's punishment with calories. Water? Don't make me laugh. The canteen smells like rust and mildew. The stream you filled it from bubbled like a dream. Sure, but upstream, someone dumped a chamber pot into it. Or a rotting horse carcass. Or worse. One sip is a gamble. Cholera, dysentery, giardia, or some unnamed 19th century nightmare that makes your stomach clench like a fist and your bowels declare war on civilization. You drink it anyway. You have to. Your mouth is dry. Your tongue's cracked. You're sweating through your shirt even though the night's cold and your body's already whispering the first hints of collapse. Whiskey helps. Not with nutrition, just with forgetting. It burns clean, at least. Burns like regret and numbs like nothing else. You'd give your boots for a sip, your knife for a swig. You do. You crave food that doesn't smell like a corpse, that doesn't fight you as it slides down your throat. You dream of bread that doesn't shatter when bitten, of cheese not green with mold, of meat that doesn't look back at you. But out here, dreams are for fools. Dinner is pain, and tomorrow, it might be worse. Flashback. A caravan. 20 people, maybe 25, heading west. Hope in their eyes, dried blood on their boots. They caught a rabbit, or thought they did. Made stew. Everyone ate. Everyone smiled. First time they had meat in days. But it wasn't rabbit. It wasn't anything that should have been eaten. By dawn, half of them were vomiting black bile. By noon, they were hallucinating, screaming about snakes in the sky and spiders under their skin. By dusk, they were still. The others buried them in shallow graves. No words, no markers. Just a warning burned into memory. Know your meat or meet your God. You finish your bowl, regret it immediately. The cramps start slow, a twisting, a gurgle, then a tightening, like something alive is crawling through your guts with claws and teeth. You double over. Sweat pours down your face. Your spine arches. You stumble behind a bush, drop your pants, and what comes out isn't human. It's violence. It's water and fire and rot all at once. You cry. Not from emotion, from pain, the kind that makes you wish someone would put a bullet in your head and say a few kind words over your stinking, bloated body. Then comes the fever. Your skin burns, but your bones are ice. You shiver. You shake. You hear voices that aren't there. You scratch at your arms because you're sure something's moving beneath the skin. You scream. You laugh. You see your mother, your preacher, and the devil all at once. They all tell you the same thing. You're dying for a spoonful of beans and a bite of bad meat. You curl up on the ground, mouth foaming, eyes rolling back, and for a few glorious seconds you forget your name. By morning, you're alive. Somehow. But you're lighter. Something left you in the night. Maybe your soul, maybe just your dignity. You crawl to the fire, pick at the next batch of stew, and start again. Because there is no other option. You don't eat, you die faster. You eat, you die slower. Those are your choices. Gourmet isn't on the menu. In the Wild West, food isn't fuel, it's roulette. Every meal is a wager. Will this one kill me? Will it make me wish it had? Will I spend the next 3 days bleeding out of places that shouldn't bleed? Or will I finally get a piece of jerky that doesn't shatter my molars and taste like smoked boot leather? You never know, and you never stop trying, because the hunger's always there, clawing, demanding, telling you that even pain is better than emptiness. Dinner is pain. Beans are betrayal. Meat is a coin toss. Water is poison. And dessert? That's a hallucination you earn by surviving until nightfall. If you survive. Welcome to the mining town. No, not the kind with hope. Not the kind with banners, handshakes, or prosperity. This is the other kind. The kind that eats men whole and spits out bones into the dirt with no ceremony. This is the town where dreams come to die, where gold is an illusion and survival is a filthy coin you spend every day just to wake up again. Population 300 maybe. 5 doctors supposedly. 0 you'd trust with a hangnail, let alone your life. 1 jail cell and no door, because justice out here isn't behind bars, it's 6 feet under. The buildings lean like drunk men. The saloons always open, always full, always screaming. The church hasn't had a sermon in a year. The roof collapsed during a storm, and nobody fixed it. The preacher left, or disappeared, or got buried with the rest of them. The streets are mud mixed with blood and whiskey, carved by wagon wheels and boot heels, and painted red every Saturday night. The air tastes like rust and gunpowder. The sky's the color of old bruises. And the people? They're ghosts with warm breath and twitchy hands. You walk down the main strip, and every door has a sound behind it. Screaming, crying, laughter that sounds like madness. A cough you've heard before, the kind that ends in a shallow grave. Someone singing off-key. Someone else is being beaten behind a barn. A fight breaks out over a stolen cigar. One man gets his face split open with a bottle. Another gets a knife across the neck so fast he doesn't know he's dead until his knees hit the floor. Blood pools near the hitching posts. Horses don't flinch. They've seen worse. You pass a brothel. The window's cracked. The lamp burns all night. The madam stands in the doorway like she's guarding hell's gates. Her eyes are empty. Her lips stained with wine or blood or both. A woman inside whispers to you as you pass. No one leaves here unless they're in a coffin. She's not smiling. She's not joking. She's just telling the truth. There's no gold, not anymore. Maybe there never was. But the company keeps the lie going. They bring in new men every month. Desperate men. Broken men. Immigrants. Drifters. Runaways. Fugitives. They crawl into the mines like rats chasing a rumor, and they die like rats when the walls collapse, or the gas leaks, or the dust fills their lungs and turns them into meat statues. Black lung is a badge of honor. If you cough up blood, it means you lasted long enough to matter. The mine itself is a mouth in the earth. It chews constantly. Wood beams creak under pressure. Ropes snap. Lifts fall. Candles flicker in the dark like ghosts warning you to turn around. But no one turns around. They go deeper. Always deeper. Because there's no life above. Just more waiting. More drinking. More dying. You go to the saloon because there's nowhere else. You drink what they pour. It burns. You don't ask what's in it. If you're lucky, it's just rot-gut whiskey. If you're unlucky, it's kerosene with a fancy name. You drink anyway, because water isn't safe. The well's poisoned, and the creek runs thick with runoff from the tailings. You drink to forget. You drink to survive. You drink because everyone else is doing it, and no one here wants to be sober when the shooting starts. And the shooting always starts. Sometimes it's over cards, sometimes over a woman, sometimes over nothing at all. A look, a laugh, a noise too loud at the wrong time. Guns bark, people scream, someone hits the floor. And just like that, the piano stops playing. The music dies. The room freezes. Then someone drags the body out, dumps it in the alley, and the music starts again. No sheriff, no questions. Just another empty seat at the bar. Outside, kids play in the dirt with sticks shaped like guns. Their fathers are already buried under the mountain. Their mothers sell their souls nightly to strangers who forget their names by sunrise. The store's shelves are mostly empty. Cans with no labels. Bread as hard as wood. Meat that's grey around the edges. You eat it anyway. Hunger doesn't ask questions. The blacksmith lost 3 fingers last winter. Still works. Still drinks. He curses in 2 languages and once killed a man with a horseshoe. The barber offers shaves and bullet extractions. Same blade. Same rag. You pay in silver if you have it. Blood if you don't. The post office hasn't sent a letter in months. There's no mail, no news, just a bulletin board where people post names of the missing, the dead, and the damned. You hear coughing at night, the deep kind, like someone trying to pull their lungs out through their spine. That's how it starts. Then comes the fever, the shaking, the stink. You sweat until you can't. Then you stop moving. The town buries you behind the saloon, in the dirt among whiskey bottles and spent bullets. Someone says a prayer, if anyone remembers how. Then your spot's filled, your bunk taken, your shovel passed down. Miners vanish, one by one. Some crushed, some burned. Some just walk into the shaft and don't come out. The company shrugs. Recruits more. There's always someone willing to dig for death if you promise them gold. And the ones who live, they're not lucky. They're cursed. Their hands shake. Their teeth fall out. Their skin turns grey. Their souls already gave up. They're just waiting for their bodies to follow. This is the mining town. This is the slaughterhouse. The air is smoke and sulphur. The ground is soaked in blood and spit. The people don't smile. They bare their teeth. They don't live. They linger. They wait. For payday. For gunfire. For death. Whichever comes first. You wanted adventure. You wanted the frontier. You found it. And now it's found you. Welcome to the end of the road. Welcome to the town where the gold ran dry. The rules broke down, and the graveyard grew faster than the population. Welcome to the place where hope came to get strangled. Welcome to the mining town from hell. You'll fit right in, until you're lowered into the dirt like everyone else. You expected noble duels. You came out here dreaming of standoffs in the street. 2 men facing each other under the noon sun, revolvers low. Dust swirling, honor held in tense silence. You thought the Wild West was a place where men settled scores like gentlemen. But you were wrong. Dead wrong. Because out here, there's no honor. No rules, no code. Just shadows and silence. And the knowledge that the man you shared a campfire with last night might slit your throat for your boots before the fire goes out. In the Wild West, betrayal is currency, ambush is strategy, and trust is a bullet you keep loaded, because it's going to backfire. You ride with a crew. You share water. You share food. You joke. You laugh. You sing off-key as the sun sets and the whiskey kicks in. You think you're safe. You're not. One night, you wake up to silence that feels wrong. Your horse is gone. Your saddlebag's been cut open, the fire's out. Then you see the glint of steel. Then the footstep. Then the gun. It's one of your own. He doesn't look sorry. He just looks practical. He says nothing as he takes your last canteen and walks away. You lie there, stunned, bleeding from a wound you didn't see coming, wondering how long until the coyotes come to finish what he started. This is the West. And betrayal doesn't knock, it slits. Ambushes happen when you least expect them. That's the point. You ride through a canyon, thinking about nothing but the dust in your mouth and the sun in your eyes. Then the gunshots start. One from the ridge, another from behind. You dive, but the bullets are already ahead of you. Men in masks, bandanas over their faces, rifles in their hands. They don't speak, they don't threaten, they just shoot. Your friend takes a shot to the back and falls screaming. You want to help, you don't, you run. Someone else trips, you leave them. Not because you're cruel, because if you stop, you die too. That's how it works. You live because someone else doesn't. You survive because someone else was slower. Welcome to justice by velocity. Sometimes it's raiders. Sometimes it's your own kin. The ones who rode beside you, prayed beside you, fought beside you. But when food runs low or the gold goes missing, loyalty vanishes like smoke in wind. You hear them whispering. You see the sideways looks. One night they say they'll take first watch. You wake up bound, gagged, your boots gone. If you wake up at all. And then there are the raids. Not organized warfare. Not battles. Raids. Sudden, violent, and merciless. Your wagon train? Gone. You hear the screams before you see the flames. Children crying, horses panicking, men shouting in terror, not bravery. Your hands shake as you reach for your revolver, but it's too late. They're already in the camp. You run. You don't look back. You stumble. Someone screams your name. You keep going. You trip over a body. You don't check who. You keep running until your lungs burn and your legs go numb. When you finally stop, you're alone, covered in soot, eyes wild, heart broken. You lived, which means someone else didn't. Betrayal is what killed most Westerners, not bullets. You don't die in duels. You die because someone you trusted made a deal. Because the man you played cards with last night sold you out to the gang waiting by the waterhole. Because your partner in the mine told someone else where your claim was. You die because you turned your back, because you believed a man's word meant something, because you forgot where you were. The West is not a land of law. It's a land of loopholes and lies. Every handshake is a blade waiting to be drawn. Every campfire story is a distraction. Every laugh could be your last. You think you're part of a team. You're not. You're a placeholder, a warm body to dig, shoot, haul, and eventually bleed. Sleep lightly, or don't sleep at all. Tie your boots to your belt. Keep your back to a wall. Check your saddle 3 times. Dig a second grave just in case. Don't tell anyone where your gold is. Don't ride the same trail twice. And never ever drink from a bottle you didn't pour yourself. The West isn't trying to kill you with weather, or snakes, or bandits. It kills you with people. The ones who smile, the ones who swear on their mother's grave, the ones who ride beside you and call you brother, until the knife goes in. Even towns aren't safe. You walk into a saloon, and a man you've never seen spills your drink and stares too long. Is it a setup? Is it bait? Do you draw? Do you nod and walk away? Either one might get you killed. The town marshal is on someone's payroll. The barmaid has more knives than smiles. And the man sitting alone by the stove? He's watching you. Always watching. Waiting. He's not here for a drink. He's here for someone's blood. Might be yours. So forget the romance. Forget the standoffs. The West is a trap built on dirt and desperation. It lures you in with promises of freedom, then chains you to fear. The hills have eyes, The plains have knives, and the trail always ends with someone bleeding into the dust while their partner rides away with the map, the gold, and the last canteen. This is how the West works. It doesn't shoot you in the face. It smiles at you first. Then it shoots you in the back. Welcome to ambushes. Welcome to raiders. Welcome to betrayal. You're not ready. No one ever is. The sun rises, like a merciless beast clawing its way out of the horizon. By dawn, the air is already thick with heat that presses down on your chest like a weight of iron. You think it's bearable. You think you can handle this. You're wrong. By noon, the sun isn't just shining. It's burning, scorching. It's peeling skin from your bones with invisible flames, turning your flesh into leather stretched too thin over a skeleton made of dust. Your hat offers no shelter, your shirt clings to your sweating skin, and the water in your canteen is already lukewarm and bitter. Sweat doesn't cool you anymore. It pools in your eyes and burns like acid. You blink. Your eyes sting. You blink again. The sun laughs. When the night finally falls, it doesn't bring relief. No, the night is a monster of its own. It sneaks in, dragging a cold so deep into your bones you think they'll shatter. Your breath comes out in white clouds that quickly vanish into the endless dark. Your skin feels brittle, your fingers numb. You wrap yourself in what little cloth you have, but it's not enough. The cold whispers in your ear like a snake promising death. You shiver uncontrollably, teeth chattering like castanets in some cruel dance. The darkness presses close, and you wonder if the night will swallow you whole before the sun returns. Between the burning sun and the freezing night lies the dust storm, a rolling wall of grit and rage that sweeps across the plains like a predator. One moment, the air is clear. The next, it's a choking brown fog that strips the flesh from your bones if it had the strength. Dust gets into your eyes, your mouth, your lungs. It scratches your throat raw, fills your nose until you can't breathe, and grits against your teeth. You can't run from it. You can't hide. You're trapped in a swirling hell of particles that claw at your skin and drag at your sanity. The dust gets inside you, and it doesn't leave. Not until it kills you. Lightning isn't safe either. It doesn't wait for a target. It doesn't discriminate. It strikes without warning, smashing trees, setting tents aflame, killing horses and men alike with a thunderous crack that shakes the earth. You hear the roar and look up just in time to see a jagged bolt tear through the sky, slamming into the dry ground nearby and throwing rocks and dirt into the air like shrapnel. A campfire explodes. Men scream. You freeze, heart pounding, knowing that next time it might be you. When rain finally comes, it's a flood from hell. The dry earth doesn't drink gently. It rejects. The rain pounds down in sheets, turning dirt to mud, flooding trenches and tents, drowning fires and hope. Your clothes are soaked, heavy and cold. Water runs into your boots and never leaves. You shiver under the relentless onslaught, teeth clenched against the chill and the misery. The camp swells with sickness as wet and cold turn muscles to cramps and lungs to heavy stone. The rain doesn't bring relief. It brings death by slow drowning in cold and misery. You sit alone on a rock, hallucinating from heat stroke and exhaustion. Your tongue is dry and cracked. Your vision blurs and shifts. You see a coyote nearby, dead, but somehow still watching you. You talk to it. Maybe it answers. Maybe it's the fever. Maybe you're already dead and don't know it yet. Time stretches and warps. The sun spins in circles. The wind sings a mournful tune, and your mind frays at the edges like a rag torn by a relentless beast. Your body aches, your skin burns, your lungs heave. You can't breathe, you can't blink. You're the weather's lunch now. This isn't nature. This is a monster. A hungry, relentless force that doesn't care about you or your dreams. It strips you of flesh, freezes your soul, and drowns your hope in a sea of dust and rain. The Wild West isn't just a place of outlaws and gunfights. It's the climate of the damned. Welcome to the sun that burns like hellfire, the night that chills to the bone, the storms that devour, and the rain that drowns. Welcome to the weather that kills. Welcome to the Wild West. You ride into town under a sky that's more grey than blue, the sun hiding behind a thick blanket of dust and despair. At first, it looks like any other settlement. A handful of wooden buildings with peeling paint, a sagging saloon sign creaking in the breeze, a general store with a few broken windows, and a chapel steeple reaching up like a crooked finger, accusing the heavens. But there's something off, something in the air that makes your skin crawl and your gut knot with unease. The people come out to greet you, or at least they pretend to. They smile at you, too wide, too fixed, like the grin of a snake about to strike. Their eyes glitter with a strange light, neither friendly nor wary, but something else. Worship? Madness? You can't tell. The children clutch their mothers' skirts, but watch you like hawks, their smiles brittle and sharp. You pass by a church where the bells ring incessantly, pounding out a rhythm that's less call to worship and more call to war. Each clang vibrates through your chest, a reminder that here, faith is not a comfort, it's a weapon. You ask a question, innocent maybe, about the town, about the people, about the strange symbols carved into the wooden posts. They freeze, their eyes narrow. Whispers curl through the crowd like smoke. The preacher steps forward, tall and thin, his face pale and drawn, but his voice booming and commanding. "You are the devil's messenger," he says. The words hang in the air like a death sentence. You didn't ask for this. You just wanted water, food, maybe a place to rest. But here, questions are sins. Doubt is blasphemy, and you're a heretic before you even blink. A boy approaches you, carrying a basket. "For you, stranger," he says with a grin that doesn't reach his eyes. You reach out and take the apple he offers. It's red and shiny, tempting like a promise. You bite into it. The crunch is wet, not crisp. You pull back, horrified. Inside, where the flesh should be, is a tooth. Yellowed, broken, and unmistakably human. Whose tooth? Yours? Someone else's? You don't dare ask. You swallow hard and drop the apple into the dirt. The boy smiles again, too wide, and runs off into the shadows. The townsfolk gather around you now, silent and watching. They don't speak. They don't need to. Their eyes say it all. They're waiting. Waiting for the moment when the preacher raises his hand and signals the end. The end of your questions, your wandering, your life. The hanging tree stands just beyond the edge of town, its ropes swaying lazily in the wind, a grim invitation to join the others who came before you. You see the scars etched into the bark, names and dates carved by hands desperate to mark their existence before oblivion. You hear the whispers of past victims carried on the breeze, a chorus of souls trapped between earth and sky, begging for mercy that never comes. The ground beneath your boots feels alive with secrets and dread. The wind carries the scent of old blood, burnt offerings. and something far older and darker. You try to back away, but the crowd closes in. Faces that were once strangers now look like judges and executioners. The preacher chants a prayer, but it's not for salvation. It's a curse. The bell tolls again, louder, more urgent. Your heart hammers in your chest as the noose is thrown over the limb, waiting, patient, inevitable. The town isn't a sanctuary, it's a trap, a cult of shadows and fanaticism, feeding on fear and silence. Every smile hides a knife. Every prayer conceals a poison. They don't welcome strangers. They harvest them. And you're the latest crop, ripe for the taking. You remember the road that led you here. Long, dusty, endless. You remember the hope you carried, fragile and foolish. You remember the thirst, the hunger, the weariness. Now, all that hope turns to ash in your mouth, bitter and choking. The last thing you see is the preacher's face, pale and serene, as he nods to the crowd. The noose tightens. The bell tolls. The shadows close in. Welcome to the town you wished you never found. Welcome to your reckoning. You're Chinese, Mexican, black, a woman? Then understand this from the start. In the Wild West, you're already dead, or worse. Not because the land hates you, though it does, but because the people do. Because the myth of the cowboy, the rugged white man taming the frontier, wasn't built for you. The stories don't tell you about the real outlaws, the real victims, the real fighters who didn't fit the mold and paid with blood, sweat, and tears to survive. Here, gender and race weren't just obstacles. They were death sentences written in the law, enforced by lynch mobs, whispered threats, and silent bullets. If you were a woman, your body was a battleground. The saloons, the streets, the dusty camps weren't just places to pass. They were traps. Many women disguised themselves as men, cutting their hair, stifling their voices, learning to ride and shoot, just to avoid the fate that awaited them if they showed their true selves. Take the story of a woman who lived 12 years as a man, riding alongside cowboys, fighting alongside soldiers, earning respect no woman was allowed to claim. She worked the cattle drives, faced gunfights, and endured hardship, all while hiding who she was. Every day was a gamble. One slip, one whisper, one glance too long, and death would be waiting. But the alternative, living openly as a woman, meant exposure to violence, exploitation, and erasure. If you were black, your chains weren't broken. Slavery didn't vanish. It mutated. Sharecropping, segregation, racism dressed up in new laws and new violence. The promise of freedom was a cruel joke. Black men and women faced threats from every side. Vigilantes, crooked sheriffs, townsfolk who saw them as less than human. You could be lynched for a look, a word, or nothing at all. Your family torn apart, your rights ignored, your life a daily battle against hatred as old as the land itself. If you were Mexican or Native American, the land itself was against you, stripped of your homes, your rights, your dignity. The border was a line drawn in blood, and crossing it could mean death. You were marked as an enemy, a foreigner, a threat. Raids, massacres, forced relocations, all parts of a campaign to erase your people, your culture, your existence. Yet you fought, you survived, you resisted. But in the eyes of the law, you were a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. You weren't the cowboy, you were the target. The law wasn't your shield, it was the sword that cut you down. Courts ignored your pleas. Judges sided against you. Deputies arrested you on false charges or didn't arrest your attackers at all. Justice was a white man's game, and you were the loser from the start. You lived in fear of the night, of the sheriff's posse, of the men who wanted to teach you a lesson. Your life was worth less than a stolen horse, your pain invisible, your survival a constant defiance against a system built to break you. And yet, despite it all, you persisted. You worked the mines, the ranches, the factories. You raised families in the shadow of oppression. You fought wars, walked trails, and built communities that the history books barely mention. Your stories are the real tales of the West, stories of strength, courage, and resilience that don't fit neatly into the myth of the lone white cowboy. So if you're not white, not male, don't expect safety. Expect struggle. Expect prejudice. Expect the cold indifference of a world that tried to erase you. Because in the Wild West, identity wasn't just who you were. It was a target on your back. And sometimes, the only way to live was to disappear, to hide behind a mask, or to fight knowing the odds were against you. This isn't the story they told you. This is the truth. The harsh, unforgiving truth. You're not the hero. You're the hunted. And in the land where freedom was sold to the highest bidder, some of us were never meant to buy a ticket. Welcome to the Wild West, where law is a weapon and survival is rebellion. You die in the mud, not with a roar, not with a shout, not with a last breath begging for mercy or justice. You die in the mud because the West doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care about your dreams or your hopes or your struggles. It only cares about swallowing you whole and spitting out the bones when it's done. You collapse, face down, skin caked with dust and blood, too tired to fight, too broken to scream. A dog wanders over, sniffs you once like you're nothing more than a scent in the wind, and moves on. Because there's always something fresher to chase, something alive to hunt. Your story ends here, not in the pages of history, not in the songs sung by campfires, not in the tales whispered in town saloons. Your life, your pain, your battles are erased in a heartbeat, replaced by the next newcomer, chasing the same futile dream. No one tells your story, because no one was there to listen. No one saw you fall. No one remembered your name. And your body? It isn't buried in a grave marked by flowers or stones. It isn't wrapped in the flag of your country or the embrace of mourning friends. Your body is left to rot in the dirt, to become food for the earth and the scavengers it feeds. The desert claims what it wants. The relentless sun bakes your flesh until it cracks and falls away. The winds pick up your bones and carry them across endless dunes where no one will ever find them. Buzzards circle overhead, patient vultures waiting to finish the job you couldn't. They tear at the flesh left on your skeleton, scattering the pieces like broken promises. The desert is both grave and gravekeeper. It swallows whole the men and women who dared to dream too big, who fought too hard, who lived too fast. And then, just as your life fades into dust, new faces arrive. New wanderers seeking fortune, freedom, or simply escape. They ride the same trails, drink from the same poisoned wells, and walk the same paths to oblivion. The cycle repeats itself endlessly. Hope turning to despair, courage turning to fear, life turning to death. The West never stops claiming souls. It never forgives. It never forgets. It is a living graveyard, stretching from the Rocky Mountains to the endless plains, filled with the ghosts of those who came before. They told you the West was wild. They didn't tell you it was a graveyard.